All right. Hello again. How's it going? So on this video, we'll kind of talk about current events and some of the stuff that it actually kind of seems like my channel's kind of evolving to. Um, Let me move this. The name of the channel is like Ken's early retirement, and when I retired from the Marine Corps, and I got my was it disability and retirement, and it's kind of gone up a couple times since we've had several cost of living adjustments. Shaking too much, but anyway, um, I could probably like if if my situation was a little bit different, definitely if I was single, I could have retired and not worked again. But at the time, it was like 6 7 years ago now, when I retired. So I had two children in high school. Uh, I had two adult children that ultimately ended up coming back for a little while, and in between that, kind of the unknown of being out of the Marine Corps, after 20 years, and all that stuff. Um, just too many unknowns, and I ended up, getting a job. And then, uh, you know, the very first job that I had, I was working at kind of like a retail therapy place, and um, after about a year and a half, I totally just wasn't for me. I didn't like it, and then I got the job that I have now, working in cybersecurity, uh, which had been kind of like a theme and stuff that I wanted to do for kind of my whole Marine Corps career. After my first enlistment, I almost considered doing a lat move, lateral transfer to the computer MOSs. But then September 11th and all the Iraq stuff happened, and I just basically didn't. But fast forward 20 years, here we are. And since my channel is kind of more about resilience than early retirement, because I'm basically still working, we'll talk about some of that stuff. So basically since Trump has become president, and the Doge department or whatever they are, going through and you know discovering, you know shedding light on all the waste, fraud, and abuse that's out there. They're doing reductions in force and all that stuff, and um, in the federal government, like I guess it's kind of known that like it was next to impossible um, to be fired. In the Marine Corps or in the military, you go by enlistments, and every 2, 3, 4, 5 years or whatnot, um, you're kind of competing to stay in, and it gets progressively harder. And ultimately, that's kind of why I got out. Is the Marine Corps has a policy where if you get looked over twice for promotion, like you're pretty much done. And I was lucky enough to it worked out, and I was able to do 20 years. Had I gotten selected for first sergeant and master sergeant, might have stayed for another 4 years, but that's not what happened. So, but all those people, the 3 million plus people that work for the government, uh, they thought like they would never get uh, let go, never get fired, whether it was wrongfully fired or just one of these things where, hey, we can't afford you anymore, you got to go. And if you think about like all the different financial crises that we had, you have the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. I could see that coming in 2006. I had people, what is that? I think I was a sergeant at the time, and I had people cold calling me, asking, hey, you want to buy a house? And I couldn't even see a way you could afford it, because I did look. Um, and I ultimately told them, hey, I don't know what the amount was. It's kind of irrelevant, but I said, hey, I got $1,500, or whatever that money is. I get that much money per month for housing. If you can fit one of these mortgages in that, let me know. And I would never get a call back. Um, so the writing was on the wall even in 2006. It just took a few years for it to just completely break down. Um, but nobody thought the housing market was going to crash. If you watched any of the movies that kind of depicted and reenacted the events of just leading up to that the housing crisis, I think 6 months to a year, maybe a little bit longer before, kind of like like me, they could see it and they were making their chess moves, but nobody else thought the housing market would crash. Um, the was it like Netherlands or whatever the country was, like the tulip mania, which is flowers. The classic example of just inflation. It's not even inflation. It's basically maybe a Ponzi scheme. It's people trying to get rich quick and all that stuff. It was the same situation in the housing market in 2008 and 2009, and ultimately it crashed. We have stock market, bubble. I think for almost 2009 to almost over 10 years of basically 0% interest rates, and the economy just got addicted to 0% interest rates. And when things are starting to go bad, and they raise the interest rates, everybody's kicking and screaming because they just can't afford stuff because everything was built for that 0% interest rate. Companies would roll over debt at 0% interest and never actually pay off the principal. I'm sure people did this too. And they would just roll over the debt, refinance. And, it's great when, originally you had debt at 10%, and now it's 8%. You roll the debt over, you refinance, and it looks like you made money. And then it's 6%, then it's, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when it's virtually zero, and now you have all this debt built at 0%, and it was more than you would ever normally, under normal circumstances, take out, and then it balloons up to 10%. Now that just destroys you, and that's kind of, I think, part of where the phase that we are now is we have to raise interest rates because inflation is too high, and that's one of the tools that you can kind of tamper inflation down. Inflation's up because the money supply is up. So all these different factors. But if anybody had ears to hear and eyes to see, they could have seen it a mile away. When the COVID lockdowns and all that stuff happened, and I never did it because I had a job the whole time, but people were getting, was it 400 or 600 a week or some crazy number. One of my daughters, she had gotten laid off. She worked marketing at a tech company and got laid off, so she was getting severance, and then she was getting unemployment, and then the world shut down, and then she was getting I think it was 600 a week because it was like $2,400. She was making a killing. She didn't work at all. Nothing was produced with all that money, and multiply that by tens of millions of people getting the income as if they were producing, and they weren't actually producing. And that's why we have inflation now. And we've every dollar that the government spends, or let me take that back, every dollar that we go in debt increases the supply of money, and just that's why we have inflation. And it's going to take a long time for that to come down. I think it's like an 18-month lead time. So when we do something stupid, you won't see it at the beginning. And politicians, they actually might be out before you actually start seeing it. But sure enough, 12 to 18 months later, you'll start seeing a spike in prices if we don't try to kill all the chickens, for the eggs. Okay, what else? We have the California LA fires. Nobody would think that. I don't even know why they think this because it happens almost every year, but nobody created the conditions that would stop all that stuff because they just didn't think it'd ever get that bad again. It's like, oh, this is the worst year. It won't happen next year. Burned everything. Sure, it does. It'll burn. Just burn in a different place. Burn a different set of neighborhoods. Hurricanes. We don't plan for it. Like every time a hurricane comes, inevitably toilet paper, basically almost just the grocery stores get cleaned out in general. It's bottled water and toilet paper. It's like all we do is drink water and poop all over the place. Um, and we saw that when the country locked down. Um, like there was basically it's a run on the grocery stores, and everybody was just buying whatever because nobody ever actually cooks apparently. But the thing is, like nobody ever expects any of these like disasters and things to happen. And in hindsight, they're very, very obvious. Like you know, I could see the housing crisis, 2 years before it actually collapsed. Uh, it kind of seems like if anybody's actually looking, the market the way it is, everybody knows it's going to collapse, uh, or have like a very, very big, downturn. They just don't know when it's happened or when it's going to happen, and they're still investing. They're not like moving chess pieces and arranging things to where they'll be just a little bit more resilient. How many of us have emergency funds? Dave Ramsey has step number one on the baby steps. Gets $1,000. Most people don't even have that. You know, after you get $1,000, work up to maybe 2 months or 3 months, 6 months of living expenses. And I think every time I've looked for a job or I've gotten a job, it's been roughly 4 months. And it's kind of the same for my daughters. So it makes sense, at least here, to have 4 or 5 months of emergency expenses that make you resilient to job loss. Uh, on one of my other videos, I talked about like the three things to kind of help you get ahead, and that's one is minimalism. One is what was it? It was minimalism. It was um, always having the ability to be mobile. So like if a job sector or natural disaster or something like that took everything out in a certain area, you could kind of just move, and you wouldn't you wouldn't lose your job, or you could move to where the jobs were. Um, and then the last one, like get look for jobs that actually have earning potential and you know not basically not part-time jobs. Like if kind of close to us, there's a bunch of refineries. Those are like full-time jobs. I don't even know if they hire part-time. They probably do, but they're full-time jobs. They have medical benefits, health care and all that. They pay a full wage and generally a livable wage. Um, baristas or like working retail, unless you're the manager, retail, those are not uh, livable wage type jobs. Those are I need a second job, and I got a few hours, or they're for high school students or college students that don't have 40 hours to devote to a job, and that's okay because most of them won't give you 40 hours anyway. Uh, Probably the only one that might come close would be like a waitress or a waiter if you're, or like a bartender. Um, but you have to deal with very demanding customers, or if you're working at a bar, you have to work really late. Like, and even then, it may not like be that good. So look for jobs that actually have earning potential. Look for careers. Medical is real big. Go for being a nurse or a doctor. Don't go for being a medical coder or things like that. Actually do the work, because in a lot of jobs, whenever there's a downturn in the market, the first jobs to get cut are the HR, the marketing, um, administrative staff, stuff like that. It's not they don't cut into the meat and start laying off a whole bunch of devs or a whole bunch of nurses and doctors. It might eventually, but that's not usually the first thing to go. So for those three steps, always kind of always keep your eyes out. Um, be a minimalist, and by that I don't mean just own nothing. Probably essentialism might actually be the closer thing, but if you're single, you don't need a mansion. I mean, you could if you're NBA or something, but like everybody has, you know, their minimum that they kind of want and need, and then there is no maximum. But don't get too much house. Just get, like just right, just what you need. Um, if you like traveling, maybe don't even buy a house. Like just get an apartment or a condo or something like that. Something that you can kind of leave. Um, don't go into debt. Get a job, or don't look for a career, and then just always keep the ability to be mobile. And by that, like there's a whole bunch of things for that. That means being able could mean uh, getting a remote job and you can kind of work anywhere. It also means uh, like don't buy so much house or go in so much debt that you can't just automatically dump it or something like that, uh, and not lose your shirt because you're like upside down and alone. Don't buy more car than what you realistically need. Uh, so keep your debt low, and having little to no debt also gives you the flexibility to be mobile and to be able to move and change your situation like almost at a drop of the hat. So, okay, it's kind of a rant. I don't know. I may not even post this. I might just try to uh, make it more scripted. We'll see. I think I'll watch this. Been watching some videos on YouTube, trying to improve. You might notice some of the thumbnails. I'm getting a little bit better at Canva. Still not great, but I'm getting better. I just got the like video recording stuff. Like so, I use OBS, and I just got that set up so I can kind of show my screen or like a browser, and then show my face on it and stuff like that. So probably look stand by for that. I'm also going to start a monthly kind of a journey to retirement series. Um, and then I was thinking about kind of a journey to monetization, road to monetization, kind of series. I only have like 7 followers, so I don't expect it to get monetized in 10 weeks, but a lot of people did. So kind of feeding the algorithm and giving y'all stuff they all apparently like, because all these resilience and risk management videos aren't too big of a hit, but I don't know, we'll see. So, all right, I'll see y'all next week, and take care. Bye bye.